Titans, go!
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, ready to talk some Titans with my fellow Titan talker and longtime friend, everybody's best friend, Jesse Jackson.
Hey, Charles. We aren't talking Doctor Who. We are
Right.
talking Titan Talk. We were just talking to share a little bit behind the scenes. This is the time we normally, for the past 2 years, if not longer, have talked Doctor Who.
Yes.
But because of Doctor Who changing on Sundays, we decided this is a perfect time to talk Titans, and I'm just getting confused. Charles, it is great to see you, talk to you. We have, in my opinion, another very good episode to discuss.
Yeah, I think so. I'm really looking forward to it. I actually like this episode a little better than last time.
I did too. I felt
So,
the same way.
I thought it was a little stronger. So yeah, here at episode 9. We're going to talk about Hawk and Dove. And this is the second episode from Titans season 1 that was released on just a few days ago for us on October 19th, 2018. Written by Akiva Goldsman of Lost in Space movie infamy fame.
Well, and Batman and Robin.
And Batman and Robin infamy fame.
Yeah, but, I went to his IMDb page.
Right.
He's actually written some pretty decent movies. So
yeah. He's very hit or miss.
Yes,
Goldman.
I think that is a very fair statement.
I wish I could say he's like a knock it out of the park kind of guy.
Yeah.
But he's not. And this is also directed by Brad Anderson, who directed the pilot episode Titans.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. And we do have some notable guest cast in this.
Yes.
So if you want to run those down real quick.
Yes, please.
Foremost, we have Alan Ritchson, who plays Hawk. And you might recognize Alan Ritchson if you were a Smallville fan, because he was Aquaman on Smallville.
Yeah, and he was very good as Aquaman.
Yes.
And so I was glad to see him back. Spoilers, I thought he was very good as Hawk.
I did too. I thought this is probably his best. I thought he was much better as Hawk than he was as Aquaman.
Okay.
And I thought he was a natural at Hawk, in my opinion.
Yes.
And we'll talk about him more later in our first topic. You also, if you're a Hunger Games fan, you might recognize him as one of the contestants named Gloss, who was in the Hunger Games Catching Fire, the second movie.
Yes.
So he was one of those guys, and he's done some other things, of course, but that's probably where you primarily know him from. Minka Kelly, who plays Dove, and she was most notable, I think. She played Valerie Stahl on Almost Human, and also Lila Garrity on one of your favorite shows, Jesse, Friday Night Lights.
Yes, she was amazing on Friday Night Lights. I thought she was good in Almost Human, but she was really, really good on Friday Night Lights. And once again, spoilers, really good as Dove.
Yep. And I think she's also the daughter of one of the Aerosmith guitarists.
I do not know if that's true or not. I'll have to look.
I can't remember, but
Okay.
just trying to remember offhand. I know she has kind of like one of her father's like a rock and roll guitarist guy.
Okay.
I think it's Aerosmith, but if I'm wrong, don't get after me because I'm not entirely sure on that. Mm-hmm. Jeff Clarke, who plays now, we get the introduction of the nuclear family in this episode. Jeff Clarke, who plays Nuclear Dad, You might recognize him as playing Howard Dawes on Mad Men, or if you're a fan of sci-fi's The Expanse, he played a character named Elder McCann. We had Melody Johnson as Nuclear Mom, Jeni Ross as Nuclear Sis, and Logan Thompson, who played Nuclear Biff. You might recognize him if you watched the recent version of Stephen King's It that appeared in the theaters. He played a character named Victor Chris in that movie, the 2017 version.
Okay, good.
So that's our guest cast for this week. And before we get started, Jesse, what's your general thoughts of this episode?
Well, Minka Kelly is the only child of former Aerosmith guitarist Rick Duffy and
I was right.
Yeah, Maureen Kelly, an exotic dancer and single mother.
All right. A rock and roll star hooking up with an exotic dancer. Go figure.
Yeah, wow. That's not a cliche. I agree with you. I like this one a little bit more than the first one.
Yeah.
I think they got their sea legs a little bit.
Yeah.
I think maybe I just thought it was a really good story. I think not only was there a lot of fun action scenes, a great villain, but we got a little insight into these Titans' backstory, a new wrinkle that we had not seen before, but I like that wrinkle.
Okay.
And we got a cameo of Alfred's voice. I'm
not sure who did the voice on.
I don't know either. And once again, we're showing Richard's journey, and I think that was really well done. And of course, we got the controversy of, is pineapple on your pizza a bad thing? And we may have to talk about that.
Okay, because my take is I don't like pizza, period. So I'm probably not the best person to debate such topic.
All right.
But what's your take, Jesse? Really quick.
Well, the reason I laughed is a friend of the podcast and creator of some of our logos, Tom Zoller, also from the great state of Ohio, did a online comic strip called Warning Label. Right. And there was a scene where the couple, she asked the question, okay, this is very important, that may run the course of our relationship. Do you like pineapple on your pizza? And he said, of course. And that's the right answer. They're all happy. And the comments under that section was the most commented section ever was, no, pineapple's the worst thing ever. Yes, it was. And Tom laughed about it like, who knew I was going into controversial waters? I was just trying to be funny.
Well, people apparently have strong feelings about pineapple on their pizza.
Yeah, and so I thought that was funny that Rachel said, not pineapple, and he's like, obviously.
Obviously, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we know where at least Akiva Goldsman stands on that issue.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's dive into our topics.
Okay.
First
by the
topic.
Way,
yes.
I gave mine. What's your overall thoughts? What your quick?
I'm sorry. My overall thoughts. Like I said, I thought this was a much better episode than the first. I think it was an interesting decision to already shove Starfire and Beast Boy off to the side and not do anything with those characters after introducing them. Beast Boy more of a tease, but here we get a very solid introduction into the world of Hawk and Dove, which we'll talk about. I thought that was great, and I do have some problems with Robin's storyline. Still some issues, but I kind of get where they're going with this. I'm just not sure if I'm a fan of it.
Okay. I like the fact that they told a story.
Right.
Instead of, one of the things that, and heaven forbid I criticize Game of Thrones, but sometimes.
Which does get a shout out this episode.
Yes, it does. Sometimes I think the Game of Thrones will we've got to check in with everyone, whether we have a story specifically to say. And I like the fact that we were telling this story. And that's okay. We didn't see Beast Boy. We didn't see Starfire because that was the story we're telling this time.
Right.
And then, though I understand your point, it is a little weird, but I was okay with it.
Yeah. But overall, I thought it was a good idea to kind of give a good chunk of time to the introduction of Hawk and Dove. It set them up really nicely.
It does. Really
and
nicely.
it was a very strong introduction, so we might as well just dive right into our first topic,
Please.
which, of course, we're going to talk about Hawk and Dove here with Make a Little Birdhouse in Your Soul.
Ah, very nice.
Which is a They Might Be Giants reference.
Yes.
And, again, this is Hawk and Dove. And very strong introduction to these characters. We get right off the bat, we really get to know them in just this one episode, and I'm looking forward to your thoughts on this. So go ahead and give me your thoughts on Hawk and Dove.
I thought it was a really good introduction.
Yeah.
Hawk being so stoic during the torture scenes.
Right. Defiant.
Dawn coming in, saving him. The kind of banter back and forth, afterwards, seeing him trying to go through, painkillers, and I assume that some kind of steroids to help him heal.
Heal, probably.
Yeah. Which, by the way,
I don't think it was an addictive drug. I think it was just more to like athletes take. They take the needle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also that kind of subtly showed up in the bedroom scene, that one of the side effects of that can be lack of boom boom in the bedroom,
or just
or it could be stress,
or
just it is.
or as more commonly known, impotence.
Yes.
But that's okay. It's not a dirty word. We can say
it. ED.
Rob won't get on us if we say impotence.
ED. It shows up on TV all the time.
Exactly.
So I liked their relationship. I liked how solid they were. And then I liked how when Robin the Boy Wonder shows up, there's immediately a little bit of tension.
Right.
And I get that the way Hawk's personality is, he's not going to be confident.
Right.
He's going to feel threatened by, Mr. Wonderful and Mr. Perfect.
Right.
Especially now that we know that they had at least some kind of past. And,
yes.
I thought and I didn't write down many lines, but I thought, can we talk? And she's like, well, 4 years too late, but yeah, come on in.
Yeah.
So I felt very good about them. They are not metahumans.
Which I thought was an interesting change.
Yes. They're kind of in the Watchmen universe where even humans can be extra strong and extra gifted.
Well, it's just going more like the Batman approach, where you have someone that has no powers.
Right.
Batman's only real superpower is his money.
Yes.
And that they get to go off and just put on a costume and fight crime.
Yeah. The costumes, I agree, looked good.
Yeah, I totally agree there.
Yeah, I just liked them a lot. And I agree that spending the time to get to know them, I love the fact we didn't get an origin story. We just yep, they're Hawk, they're Dove, that's what they do.
Right.
Though you do wonder a little bit why the original Hawk and Dove was, pacifist and someone that's much more violent. This Dove is not very pacifist, but I guess that is
to some extent.
Yeah.
So
your thoughts?
My thoughts. I was a big fan of Hawk and Dove since the 80s.
Okay.
I got into it reading the original 5-issue miniseries by Carl and Barbara Kiesel.
Yes.
And formerly Barbara Randall, who was an old school Titan Talker from back in the day. And so Barbara Randall actually co-created Dawn Granger
Oh,
the new
nice.
Dove. And so thought that was kind of nice that we actually have a Titan Talker's legacy in this episode.
Yes, that's very
Um,
cool.
but also featured Rob Liefeld on art before he got really bad, in my opinion. Um, that's just my opinion. And then they eventually got their own ongoing series, and I read that I still have all 28 issues of that plus the 2 annuals. I've always loved the characters, so when the opportunity came by, like here on Titans, to introduce them, I was excited about it. When we first got to see the costumes, I thought they were dead on. I thought
Yes.
just like the Robin costume, it looks like they spent some money on this, far more than like a CW show would have, and they looked really good. Even Hawk, who traditionally in the comics had that white costume, they decided to kind of make it just a kind of an off-white grayish
Yeah,
a little
and
bit, and it works pretty well.
both of their masks were well done.
Right.
I like his kind of the beak
Right.
looking, and then her goggles.
Yeah,
Uh,
they actually did the goggles from the comics, which I was very surprised by. But
yeah,
I think it works really well.
I did too. I remember reading the original Brave and Bold episode set in the 60s, because I was
Right.
reading comics back then with the original
Yeah.
Hawk and Dove, and I liked it. And so I
Yeah,
agree.
for those comics readers, more of the younger readers that may not be familiar with the characters, what Jesse's talking about. Originally, Hawk and Dove were brothers, Hank
Yeah.
Hall and Don Hall, and they were co-created by Steve Ditko, who actually got a shout out on one of the vans in this episode, Ditko Movers or something
Hmm.
to that effect,
Yes, I
which I
saw
thought
that.
was nice. Nice little in joke there, but or a nod. And Hawk was the Hawk was the more conservative, hawkish character, and Don was the pacifist, more liberal character
Hmm.
because it was kind of very politically set, and they were constantly butting heads. But because they're brothers, they still had that underlying affection for each other and
Hmm.
looked out for each other. Don ended up getting killed off in Crisis on Infinite Earths back in '86, number 12, I believe. And so DC decided, well, okay, let's create a replacement for Dove. This time, Dawn Granger, and they kind of tweaked their origin a little bit to reveal that Hawk got his powers from the forces of chaos, the Lords of Chaos, and Dawn got her powers from the Lords of Order, which also kind of helped create Dr. Fate, but that's a whole side thing. I won't go down that rabbit hole. But here, as you pointed out, they didn't. They decided to make them just regular people. They didn't
Yes.
introduce that supernatural element to the characters. So they don't just like in the comics they would say like their names Hawk, Dove, and then they change right into their personas.
Right.
But here it's just they're just regular vigilantes, if you want to, for whatever regular vigilantes are, and they go out and they put on a suit just like Green Arrow or Batman, and they fight crime.
Yes.
And we get the impression that they've been at it for a while.
Yes. You
Uh,
see
we see how it's taken their toll.
Hank's scars. Yes.
Yeah. Hank's got a number of body scars as we see him in the tub. They're talking about getting out of it. They want to retire to Wisconsin of all places, and kind of they feel like they've kind of done their time, and they're looking for just that right opportunity to get out of the game. And so it's kind of interesting that they've kind of established that they've been around a while, just like Robin apparently has.
Yes.
And then they kind of introduced that backstory with that they knew Robin from the past, and that apparently Robin, there was a complication because Dove was actually attracted to Robin.
Yes.
So it kind of complicated their relationship, and we see that Dawn still has feelings,
Yes.
and like she'll look in the mirror and reflect and think about him, or something will be said, There's this obvious this kind of this chemistry there, at least for this attraction that obviously complicates Hawk and Dove's relationship because we find out they've been together for like 3 years, and Hawk really loves her.
Yeah, in fact,
it creates conflict. So, what do you think about that conflict?
So I believe she truly loves Hank. I think when she talks about it, she says, "I have been with you. I'm going to be with you, and the only reason I'm not, I'm going to chalk it up to your tiredness
Right.
of why you're doubting that." You can have a former relationship that you may think of with affection, but that doesn't mean you necessarily want to go back to that. Right. I believe she is committed to Hank and their relationship.
Maybe she just has some unresolved feelings that she needs to kind of work out a little bit more.
I think so. I also think they imply very strongly that they were at least partially intimate.
Right. There's that bit of where Raven touches Dawn's hand.
Yeah.
And she gets that flashback. I guess they did have sexual intercourse.
Yeah.
At one point. So obviously, I think maybe Hank's bitterness toward Robin is a little bit justified, perhaps.
Yeah, I think so. And so I thought it was really, really well done. I like the interactions between them. Sometimes when you're having to play the jerk character,
right?
It can come across poorly. I think
Alan Ritchson,
did a good job of making him
likable. He's not obnoxious.
No, not at all.
He's just he's a hothead.
Yeah,
and a bit of, and can say some smart. He's more like Wolverine, I think.
Yes, I think that is in this
as far as personality goes. I think he's very sarcastic.
Yes,
and cheeky, to use a British term. Yeah, and I think it works. I think Alan Ritchson totally sells the character in this.
Yeah, and I do think Minka Kelly, very thoughtful, very caring. I really liked her and Rachel's interactions together. So. And you get they imply very strongly that there was an earlier version of not officially the Titans,
right?
But at least they would work together.
Well, there was like a community, because you notice there was, I don't know if you saw this or not, but there was a photo in Hawk and Dove's apartment when we see Dove in the bathroom.
Yeah,
and just outside the bathroom, there's a picture. And if you look really closely, it's Hank, Dawn, Dick, and Donna Troy.
Yeah, you assume that the person in that picture is Donna Troy.
So apparently Donna, who we know is going to be introduced later on the season, played by Connor Leslie.
Yeah.
Apparently was part of their little superhero clique.
Yeah, and and I love the idea. Oh, are you hanging out with the bad kids?
Yes, that was one of my quotes. That's one of my quotes. Yeah, okay. I love that. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, so very happy. Did a great job of introducing them. Set up some nice conflicts, and I am hoping that what appeared to happen at the end is not happening.
Yeah. So spoilers. If you haven't watched the episode, you should.
Yeah.
But since we've been spoiling it to death already.
Yeah.
At the end, Dove falls off the roof, and I thought they were going to reveal that Robin had caught her or saved her, but it turns out no, he was on the whatever's other side of the roof, or other side of the building, and wasn't able to see her fall. He goes to her rescue. She's still alive at the end of the episode. He's doing CPR on her, so I'm thinking she's not dead.
I hope so.
Because if nothing else, just in this introduction alone, maybe I'm not the only one, I think just based on this one episode, I'm ready for a Hawk and Dove spinoff series.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done.
I think they could actually carry off their own spinoff series if they would decided to DC Universe decided to go ahead with that.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, IMDb shows her appearing in every episode. So
Okay, so spoilers.
Spoilers.
But, well, to be fair, IMDb isn't always right.
That is correct.
Yeah. So we should qualify that. But I'm getting the feeling that she'll be okay. So,
yeah, I hope so too. But I like that. So very good.
Yeah. So maybe we'll find out that Raven can heal.
No, that'd
Like
be
she
nice.
like she can in the comics. And
Ooh,
maybe,
that would be really good.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that will be the resolution, that Raven comes down and puts her hand on her and realizes that she can heal Dawn.
As well as kill. So yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, fingers crossed for that. So
Okay.
we'll see. Because we know she can do it in the comics. The question is, will she be able to do it here? So yeah.
Yeah, well, let's put that down as a Charles prediction.
Yeah.
And then next week we can
I'm not
see
entirely
if we got
sold on it. So if it doesn't happen, but it would be a great way to resolve that issue.
I think it would be a great, and by the way, if the writers didn't
That's how
take
I
that,
would. Let's just put it this way: if I was writing the episode, that's how I would have done it.
and if they don't, they were wrong. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. Okay.
All right, next
All right,
topic,
so let's,
my friend.
Yeah, let's move on to our next topic. Okay. Blackbird singing in the dead of night.
Yay.
And this is Robin and Rachel. So if you notice, we got like a kind of a birds of prey theme going here, because we've got Hawk, Dove, Robin, Raven.
Yeah.
Lots of birds in this episode.
Yes, in fact, that was one of the trivia, is that every character is named after a bird, all the heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe that's why Wonder Girl's not hanging out with them right now, because she doesn't have a superhero code name that sounds like a bird.
Exactly.
So yeah, this is Robin and Rachel Raven. Song title, of course, Blackbird by the Beatles. If you don't know that, shame on you.
Yes.
It's one of their greatest songs.
Your first topic could have been Soar Like an Eagle.
Fly or
if
like
you
an
fly
eagle.
like an eagle, yeah, fly like an eagle.
Yeah, the Steve Miller
but
classic.
They would have corrected us. It's a hawk, you jerk.
Right, exactly. That's why I kind of went with birdhouse, because
yes, absolutely.
And if you notice, Hank had got her a pigeon coop on the roof.
Yes, and someone.
Where is it doves? I couldn't tell if they were doves or pigeons.
I think they were doves, and because they mate for life, And you're like, okay, we're gonna move. Yet you've built a. Okay, well, this hand wave. Don't think about it.
Maybe they figure they don't want to move for a while or something.
Right.
But anyway, all right. So new topic: Robin and Rachel. So I want to talk about their storyline.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of see them traveling. They've apparently traveled from Michigan to Middleburg Heights, Ohio, where they stop off at a diner. And then they end up in a hotel, which I paid attention to. The outside said it was like the Michigan Hotel. So I'm like, okay, they went from Michigan to Ohio, but they're in a hotel that says Michigan. So did they go back to Michigan? I don't know what. I'm thinking that was a bit of a error by the production.
Possibly.
But so it's the continuity's a little off. And then they end up traveling to Washington, D.C., of course, where Dick intends to dump off Rachel on Hawk and Dove. That's his plan. So I want to get your thoughts on this particular development in our storyline.
I like the idea that, Dick is worried about Rachel. I do always have the worry of, how do you not get fired on your job? Right? Like, it's
been like at least a couple days. Nobody's.
Yeah.
Now he does talk to his partner, Amy.
Yes.
So, but I don't know if he's checked in with the department at all.
Yeah, and I don't.
It's like.
Yeah, I just don't see him being able to be that have that much freedom. It just seems kind of wrong. So anyway, I will. I like their interactions. I like him trying to take care of her. I like her openness. I think it's kind of funny him going, should you be watching Game of Thrones? Really? She's killed a guy.
Right.
And you're worried about watching something violent that's going to bother her?
Well, I mean, it's kind of nice to see Dick Grayson having some morality again, although, he has that really brutal violence in this episode again, and even gets called out by Dove about it appropriately.
And he talks about that, that he's going through some things.
Yeah.
And I do think
that's rather a harsh thing to go through, I would think.
Yeah, and one of the things we've talked about in last week's episode is he's trying to change, but every time he puts on the Robin costume, the muscle memory and the darkness seems to take over him, which could lead to why he becomes Nightwing down the road.
I was just going to
change that persona. Yeah,
I was just thinking that, because that would be a good excuse for him to kind of break away and hopefully break away from that darkness.
Yeah. So. Because when they have that fight, and he picks up his throwing star, and just puts it on back on his chest with the blood hanging there.
Yeah, just pops right out of there.
Yeah.
Pop.
I was a little unhappy that he flat lied to Rachel, and I understood her being upset at the end where she goes, you lied to me. You said you weren't going to leave,
right?
And now you are leaving. And with as much abandonment as she has shared, that was really very poorly handled, Mr. Grayson. I'm not saying it wasn't the right thing to do to talk about that, but it should have been discussed, and here's what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah, it was kind of a pun intended dickish move on his part.
Yes, absolutely.
He makes a point of telling Raven, I'm not going to lie to you, but even Raven, who tells him, you can't lie to me. I know what you're really thinking, and then ultimately calls him out on his behavior.
Yeah.
I knew, you said you were going to take care of me and you didn't. And I was not happy to see that either.
And then later, there's a point where she says, wow, you're really good at lying.
Yes.
Because she talks about, you can't lie to me. And then there is enough to say
that you can fool her a little bit.
She can fool her a little bit, yes.
Yeah. Now, Raven, apart from this, it's kind of interesting to see her become a bit more of a kid in this episode.
Yes.
We've talked about how she was watching Game of Thrones, and she gets all geeked out when they find out they have dragons, and there was a great moment that Dawn takes her out. They just kind of hang out together and then come back, and she's just they're talking about the show, and even Dick is looking at them going okay, who's that kid with you that's actually happy and stuff?
Yeah.
And it's and Dawn tells him, well, he's a great kid, or she's a great kid, and you just got to kind of let her be one once in a while.
Yeah, and she talked about I treated her, differently.
You should get to know her.
Yeah, exactly. So I like that a lot.
Yeah. So it was very encouraging, and I'd like to see that. Maybe we'll see more of that once she hooks up with Beast Boy later on.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's hope that Beast Boy is able to bring that out of her more.
Yes, I hope so.
Exactly. Now Grayson, of course, there's that controversial scene where he just brutally attacks those guys, and I was just that I don't want to see him doing this. It seems like very Jason Todd to me again. So I have to wonder if this is Goldsman's influence or his idea that he's trying to promote here, because he co-wrote the pilot episode.
Yeah, I understand that's
this brutality.
But I get the idea that I think that's part of the journey. I think they need to show how out of control and violent he has been to try to I don't want to be that kind of guy anymore. That's what I view it as. Now I can get how we don't like that, and if he stays that way, I think that's certainly something we should think about.
Right.
But I don't think he'll stay that way. I think he is ultimately working toward becoming a better person.
I hope so, because just coming up, taking out some guys, covering with this like really gratuitous blood spatter on the wall, and him just saying like you're welcome, and then walking off.
Yeah.
Is it's not what I want to see out of Robin. So hopefully they hurry up and get through this.
I do find it interesting that
it doesn't make him more interesting, in my point. It just makes him more violent.
A lot of F-bombs in this episode.
Hawk primarily.
Yes, yeah, but a little bit of everyone.
Yeah. That's, again, I think Goldsman.
Yes.
Akiva Goldsman trying to thinking that, well, you just, as long as everybody's dropping F-bombs every other sentence, it's adult.
Right.
You get the F-bomb is great. I'm not against using the F-bomb.
No.
Although I would use it here if I could. But but I think if you use it more sparingly, it's more effective.
I agree.
For
I
emphasis.
Totally agree. Yes, I agree.
Because if you're just doing it every other sentence, people just tune it out.
Yes.
And it doesn't have the impact. So if you use it like when it's really appropriate, it matters more in the script.
I agree.
And Goldsman should know this.
But I do think they might have been trying to make the point that Hawk just talks that way. That could be what they're trying to say is that.
Well, and then to be fair, when he was doing a lot of that, he was getting tortured.
Yes.
So,
absolutely.
So I thought that was kind of fair. All right, let's move on to our third topic, if you're ready.
I am ready.
All right, third topic. We are family.
Very nice.
I've got all mom and dad and sis and Biff and me. By Sister, this is a Sister Sledge classic, of course. The nuclear family I want to talk about here are bad guys for the episode. And for those who don't know, the nuclear family is this kind of pretty obscure supervillain team that was introduced in the Outsiders comic back in the day by Mike W. Barr and Jim Aparo. If you're an old school Batman and the Outsiders fan, this was in the when the Outsiders got their solo series. This is where they debuted, and in the comics they turned out to be androids. Okay. And I believe it's been a while since I read that comic, so cast in this like kind of retro 50s mentality. And so here they're introduced as this, like, they still have a bit of a retro feel to them. Like they're introduced during the scene where like they're listening to Papa Loves Mambo by Perry Como, which is very 50s. And that is just this modern family, but that kind of, for whatever reason, has this retro mentality. And we find out that they use drugs to kind of juice themselves up.
Yes.
And so that they can go off and be stronger than everybody else. So more of it like some kind of super concentrated steroid of some kind. And they're essentially contract killers or mercenaries for hire, at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we find out. So what is your take on the nuclear family?
Really, really cool villain. I was very happy with them.
Right.
Just the right amount of creepiness.
Right.
That cruel streak. I'm a little worried about Amy.
Yeah.
We
should talk about Amy real quick.
Yeah.
Because Amy, there's a scene about midway through the episode, later toward the end, where Amy comes back and apparently the nuclear family's waiting for her.
Yes.
And like she comes home, but the nuclear family's waiting inside her apartment or whatever. And it's kind of implied that they have her at their mercy.
Yes.
So is she still alive? I'm actually more concerned about Amy being alive than I am Dove being alive. How about you?
I am, because we haven't gotten to see enough of her yet.
Right.
But what I've seen so far, I've liked.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very worried about that. I am also worried about where they're gonna, like, what ended up happening with her. I did like the cruelty of the nuclear family, that
Right.
with this bright sunshiny, oh, you didn't save us any fun, oh, I
Yep.
think we can still have fun, that's creepy, very
Yes.
creepy. So
Right.
yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought they were great villains.
Yeah. I'm hoping that Amy doesn't get fridged.
Yes, absolutely.
Hopefully she survives. But we'll see. Um, the nuclear family, I thought, yeah, I agree. They did have that creepiness vibe to them.
Hmm.
Apparently we find out that, the person that comes to their door at their home to tell them they're activated. So apparently almost kind of like a sleeper cell a little bit.
Yes.
And the guy that came to the door, the messenger, if I'm not mistaken, if you've watched the Netflix series House of Cards,
Okay.
he's Kevin Spacey's vice president.
Ah, I did not know that.
That guy, I believe,
Okay.
was the messenger in this episode. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So maybe we'll see more of him later, because I don't think you would get somebody like that unless you intended to use him more,
Yeah, I would think so.
as we find out maybe who he's working for.
I wonder if maybe, though, he
No,
knew some of the producers,
right.
and he, kind of as a favor, did that small role.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
either, but I just thought it was interesting. Maybe
I
something
did too.
to watch.
Yeah. Yes.
We can maybe keep a lookout. Now, for whatever reason, they were hired to retrieve Rachel,
Yes.
and we don't know why yet.
No, and they talk about.
So apparently, there's this big conspiracy with everybody trying to get Rachel for some reason. We saw
yes.
Starfire last week when Starfire found that photo of Rachel in Konstantin Kovar's office.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's this big conspiracy about her.
I think they all are, and I like this bigger story that they're showing us. That there are things, there's something going on we don't know about.
Right.
Our heroes don't know about them. So I think that's really well done.
Yeah. So anything else about the nuclear family before we move on?
No, like I said, I really like them. I thought the whole swear jar thing and then playing Monopoly.
Yeah, that was really
Yeah.
Nuclear Dad drops an F-bomb rather casually, but they do the swear jar, which I thought was kind of funny.
Sorry, kids, and that's the rules.
Yep.
If you
we know Luke Cage would approve of that swear jar.
Yes.
So he has the one in his barbershop.
Yes.
Still can't believe they canceled the Netflix series, but that's a whole different discussion.
Yes.
All right. Anything
else
about
into Fandom Zone to hear Charles's hot TV opinions about that. Yes.
Yeah, we'll rant about losing Luke Cage and Iron Fist on the Phantom Zone.
Right.
All right. Anything else about this episode before we move on?
No. I was really happy with it. I do know there are people who do not like, including your lovely bride, do not like the tone this series is taking.
Right.
It's not bothered me, but I understand the people that it does bother, why it does.
Yeah. Now, but Lori actually, she did watch the episode, and I think she liked this one a little better than the first.
Good.
She still doesn't like the portrayal of Robin.
Mm-hmm.
That's her main sticking point right now.
Okay.
But she liked Hawk and Dove. She thought they were introduced really well, and so she was at least encouraged about that. So
Okay.
I'm hoping there will be more that she likes than what she doesn't like.
Okay.
And if we can get her past this whole Robin thing, and again, that's why I'm hoping that changes.
Yes.
So hopefully my wife's opinion of the show will change as well.
All right.
But we'll see. Fingers crossed, everybody.
Yes.
But she's still hanging in there for the moment, so that's a good
Good.
sign. The longer she hangs in, maybe the more she'll get used to it, hopefully.
Absolutely.
All right. One thing I did want to talk about really quickly. If you noticed during that whole scene where Hawk and Dove are fighting, when the right before Robin steps in,
Yeah.
that was from one of the early trailers for the show, and there was that controversy because Dove was slicing people's faces with her talons.
Yeah.
That apparently was edited again. Now, this is another change from the trailers. We talked about some of that last time.
Yeah, I did not catch that this time, but that is good to see.
Yeah, because that was one of my other sticking points was that Dove, who's supposed to be this pacifistic character, is raking guys across the face with talons and causing, blood spurts and whatnot from that. And so I'm hoping this is another case where they decided, well, we've gotten some negative feedback about this. Maybe we should tone this down a little bit.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
Hopefully they do some of that for Robin, but that's a deliberate storyline, I think. So here they could make a little minor tweak, and I'm hoping that that's the case.
Good.
So, because it seemed very out of character for a pacifistic character like Dove.
Yeah.
And Hawk, you would expect it, but Dove, not so much. Because
Right.
Dove tends to fight very passively.
Yes.
That's her fighting style. All right, so that's my only other thing. All right, so you got any favorite lines of the episode?
No, I know there's a couple good ones, but I didn't end up writing them down.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
I actually wrote down a few. I've gotten a habit now is kind of like skimming through the episode on the computer and kind of like, okay, there was this line I want to write down and this line I want to write down. So one of the first lines I liked was Hawk when he's getting tortured and he's all strung up and chained up. And he says one of his torturers that comes in and lays out his surgical equipment and he turns on the radio or something. And Hawk is like, oh, yeah, set the mood. You guys in the Boy Scouts, that's a nice nod.
Yes.
Got to keep them kicks shiny. Know what I mean, boys?
That was very good.
Ow, F. You going to torture me or what?
Very nice.
So, I liked him being all defiant with that. That was good. And then there was another exchange between Hawk and Robin, which we kind of hinted about earlier, where Hawk says, I thought your boss said to stay away from us. And Robin replies, I didn't tell him. Mm-hmm. And Hawk says back, what is this, a night out with the bad kids?
Yes.
All kind
I
of
like
smarmy
that a lot.
And cocky. And then there's that exchange between Dick and Dawn that you talked about where he shows up at her door and says, can we talk? And Dawn replies, you're about 4 years too late, but sure.
Yeah, that was great.
And then, of course, Rachel's classic line, dragons, this show just got so much better. All excited and geeking out over Game of Thrones, which I thought was pretty fun.
That was wonderful, yeah.
Love that. So what's your rating for this episode?
So I am going to give it 8.5 pizzas with no pineapple. I like this. Like I said, I really liked the first episode, and I thought this one, they stepped it up a notch. So I'm very, very happy.
Okay, good. I also give it 8.5. Give it a little point up. 8.5 unsettling pairs of garden shears.
Ooh, I like that one a lot.
Because remember, Hawk's manhood was getting a little threatened by garden shears earlier, and then the garden shears returned later during that fight.
Yes.
And someone gets garden shears to the groin. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
Very ironically. So I thought that was good. But definitely, I give it a half point better than last week's episode.
Yeah.
So I think it's a step in the right direction. Hopefully we'll get more toward like this emphasis on good characterization. as we introduce the characters.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I don't have any Titans Tower news unless you do.
I do not.
Okay, so let's just jump right to our Tell It to Titan Talk section because we got some feedback this week.
Good. I have some too, so you want to start?
Yeah, because, well, for one, my brother-in-law, John Brockhouse, wrote in.
Yay, John. Thank you.
So, John, if you're listening, I hope you are. Thank you so much for giving us some feedback on the episode, your take. So, yeah, he's writing about Hawk and Dove, the episode. And John writes in, says, Hawk and Dove were incredibly cool. The chemistry between Dick, Dawn, and Hawk felt genuine. Their love, jealousy, regret, and respect was awkward and heartfelt. I continue to love Rachel more and more. I'm really happy with Tegan Croft's performance. Now, John is a big Raven fan, so it's good to see that he's impressed with her. I think her vulnerability and apprehension alongside Dick's seeming atelophobia, and I've explained what atelophobia is. I thought that was a rather impressive word that my brother-in-law pulled out. Apparently, it's like feeling that you're doing the wrong thing. It's a fear of doing the wrong thing.
Oh, okay. Yes, that is very appropriate.
Yeah, so he says, alongside Dick's seeming atelophobia is generating viable drama and laying a solid foundation between the two.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Again, I really enjoyed this episode. I think DC is building a nice platform to launch this super duper effing group. Smiley face. So thank you, John, for writing in.
Yeah, good points, John. I agree. This is just, it's off to a great start.
Yep, and hopefully this won't be the last we hear from you, or hopefully my nieces and nephews might chime in as well at some point. Yes. So hopefully they're watching. I'm sure you're probably trying to get your kids watching this show as well.
Yes.
All right, Jesse, you said you had some feedback?
Yeah. So Ken Rosen is does a Springsteen blog. He has been on Set Listing Bruce. He does a This Day in Springsteen History, and he also does he'll do blogs about people covering Springsteen songs or Bruce covering their songs. But he is also a big comic book fan, and
right.
He and I have talked about that. And he originally was very, very worried watching the trailer, and so by Twitter, I asked him. I said, "Hey Ken, what are your thoughts on the Titans?" This is his answer. I'm 15 minutes into episode 1 of Titans, and so far I'm horrified and appalled. Then he sent, watch them both, not sure I can stomach watching any more, so disappointing. And I replied, you're not alone in that feeling. My co-host on Titan Talk's wife, Lori, was very disappointed. I liked it, but I get that it's not a Wolfman-Perez Titans. Yep. And he says, I certainly isn't. I may give it another episode or two. I really would like to see where they are going with Starfire, and I did like the treatment of Hawk and Dove. I said, do you mind if I share this? And he says, sure. I'm hoping they're going to go all in for Trigon, but given how dark the heroes are, I'm generally scared to see what they're going to do with Trigon.
Right.
So thank you, Ken, for sharing. I think you should stick with the show. What's helped me is I understand this is its own thing.
Right.
And they are trying to create their own story. But I totally get people that go, this isn't what I want to see. And I think that is a fair decision.
I think it's a valid concern. Speaking as a Wolfman and Perez fan.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of a bit of a mistake to kind of not try to appeal to that segment of the fandom, because they're the ones that really wanted this series.
Right.
So I think it was kind of a lost opportunity. On the other hand, they're the younger generation who aren't Generation X or above, like myself. They just know the Titans from the animated series, the Teen Titans animated series that came out around 2003. So their Titans experience is much different from what we had in the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah.
And so the show has to, I think, try to appeal to both of those. Now, obviously, the cartoon was nowhere near as dark as this.
Right.
But I think that the younger generation is more receptive to a different take than what the older Gen X version might be used to.
Yeah, and I do think
what do you think? What do you think about that?
I totally agree. I do think they're trying to go for a darker thought on, kind of like the Watchmen movie.
Right.
It is so they're gambling. They're gambling that the audience wants a mature, violent Titan storyline. One thing about it being on demand, you don't have to worry about ratings as much,
Right.
because people are paying to watch this.
Because all you're paying attention is subscribers, but I'm sure they're also tracking who's actually watching the show.
Yes. Yeah. By the way, as we were talking about this, on TVLine.com, this just came out. The Titan team answers your questions about Nightwing, the Big Bad, LGBT, Heroes, Donna Troy, and more. So I have not had a chance because it just came out.
All right.
So
this is our breaking news.
Yeah. So it looks like there's about 8 or 9 questions about it. So be sure and go check that out.
Yep. Maybe you could post a link on Titan Talk, the Titans Podcast Facebook page.
I will do that, and I will tweet it out right now. The other thing we didn't mention is did you pause on the Dick Grayson telephone contacts and try to read to see who did?
I did not pause yet, but I did notice that Donna Troy was in his contact list.
Yes, as is Alfred, as is Lucius Fox, and then a bunch of other names. And
I'm gonna have to do a screenshot of that or something and see who's on Dick Grayson's contact list.
And if you can Google it. Someone did the work for us, and they said most of these names are people that have been involved with either the Titans or other Greg Berlanti or Eva Goldsmith cast and crew. So
little in jokes as well.
Yeah. So that was good.
So maybe you can post that link as well on our Facebook page. All right.
Sure will.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Next time on Titan. Oh, actually, we should talk about. Next time on Titan Talk, we're going to talk about Origins, the 3rd episode, which I believe is we're going to get back to Starfire, see what she's up to.
Oh, good.
And I think we're going to start seeing some of our Titans members finally coming together. I believe maybe Starfire encounters Beast Boy, or maybe Robin and Raven encounter Beast Boy. So hopefully we'll start seeing these characters start interacting here shortly, and get their separate storylines on the same page.
Yeah, I would hope so. I've been okay. Like I said, I'm not in a rush. I just want a good story. Though it will be cool to see them talking about it.
All right.
And getting together. Yeah.
So if you want to be like my brother-in-law John, you can write into us here at TitanTalkcast@gmail.com. That's TitanTalkcast@gmail.com. And drop us a line. Let us know what you're thinking about the show, or what you're looking forward to on the show, or how we're doing here on Titan Talk, the Titans Podcast. Let us know what you'd like to see us doing, or any thoughts about what we've said, or our thoughts on things. We'd love to hear from you and get your feedback. Otherwise, you can reach us on Twitter at Titan Talkcast on the Twitter, or you can reach us on Facebook at Titan Talk, the Titans Podcast, where in addition to the links that Jesse's going to post, you can check out all kinds of other stuff that we'll be posting about the Titan series, any news that comes out, and such things. So please like us and follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and please tell your friends about us. And while you're at it, also please go to iTunes and rate and review us, because the more people that do that helps people find our podcast. And obviously we're trying to grow this community, so we kind of need your help to help do that. So we definitely appreciate that if you would.
We really do need people to share this. Post the links on, if you're part of any Titan Facebook group, please post the link to our shows, like our page, retweet the tweet, retweet the tweets.
Yes.
That's a tongue twister. That out to get more people find us.
Easy for you to say.
Yes, it is. You can find me at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter.
Right.
You can hear me talk about Doctor Who with Charles and Karen. That comes out every week.
On Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who
Yes.
podcast.
I talk about Bruce Springsteen on Set Lusting Bruce, the Bruce Springsteen podcast. Charles is where can they hear your fine work?
Well, I don't know about fine, but you can hear my work on at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine or at Charles Skaggs on Instagram. I'd love to have you follow me, and I'll probably follow you right back. And otherwise, you can reach me on Facebook at Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, or Facebook. I did that. Or my blog of geeky things, if I can get to playing.
Damn good coffee and hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about Titan Talk, Titans, all kinds of Titans news, comic book, sci-fi news, all kinds of geeky stuff, news about my other podcasts, including my other Southgate Media podcasts that I do, including the aforementioned Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, the award-winning Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, or Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I talk about with Twin Peaks and David Lynch type stuff with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, or the Phantom Zone podcast, which is finally back in action. We had recorded our 150th episode, which will hopefully be posted shortly, and we're hoping to be back on track and recording 151 just later this afternoon that we do with friend of the show, Karen Lindsay. So please check that out as well, where we talk about all the other comic book and sci-fi TV shows,
Absolutely.
in addition to Titans or other DC Universe shows. So please check that out. And where we talk about this week, we're going to be talking about Daredevil and Black Lightning and the premieres of Supergirl and Arrow. So
good, very nice.
Season premieres, I should say. So please, check those out. And otherwise, Jesse, do we have anything as we head out?
No, just keep the faith, guys. Yep. I think the show is getting better every time. I understand this isn't your cup of tea, but understand that you have to take it as what it is.
Right.
And just, if nothing else, stick with the show so you can keep listening to Charles and I talk about it.
Exactly.
Because we want, and tell us if you don't like it. We just gave you all the ways to reach out to us. I think that would be wonderful for you to share what's bothering you about it. And if you love us, tell us about that.
Yeah, the positives, the negatives, we're open to everything. So just,
absolutely.
As long as you drop us a line, we'll be more than happy to share your thoughts.
Yes.
So everybody, thanks again for listening to Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. We will be back next week as we talk about episode 3, Origins. So we'll see you right here next time on Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. Bye, everybody.
Bye.